Hi, I'm Jason Walker. This is Walker Tea Review. Glad you could join us. Welcome. And we are talking about tea, not just black tea, green tea. We're talking about the names of tea. We get down to the specifics because we enjoy tea. There's so much to appreciate. There are so many varieties, and we're here to explore those together. Today we have a black tea from Adagio. This is a Nepal First Flush. And we're going to go ahead and get this started because, as you know, we do tea tastings together so that you can experience, get a few tips, get a little bit of information on how to prepare your own tea, taste it at home with us, add your comments at the end because people have different experiences. People have variety of differences in their palates and how they taste, what aromas and aspects they bring out. Now, to do that, to have a tasting, we have our basic equipment with us. We have our kettle. We have our tasting cup from Adagio. This is about 5 ounces. It comes with a bowl, which is the standard way of enjoying tasting, but instead we're using a stemless wine glass simply because it allows us to look at the color and talk about that color together. So we're going to start off by getting our dry leaf ready. Now we're going to have our regular basic average teaspoon here, and I haven't filled it up. You can tell there's still quite a bit of opening space here on the back end, so I'm going to add that, and then just a small pinch more, about what you could get, between a pinch between your fingers. So that roughly covers the bottom of our tasting cup here. A couple of leaves fell off, and I'm not afraid to add those. Toss those back in. Now, as always, we're going to be talking about the dry leaf, the wet leaf, and the liquor, which is the proper term. So we're going to go ahead and get this started, and then we'll be able to kind of step back and talk about each part. Now, before I do this, and just so that you can kind of be on pace with me, you may want to go ahead and start your notes on your dry leaf, and this will give you some time to kind of do that while we're talking as well. Dry leaf, to make notes, to talk about tea changes over time, or it can change depending on your storage conditions. So to be able to talk about how this tea tastes here and now, you want to be able to talk about the shape of the leaves, how it's twisted, how it's ball, what kind of shapes are there, the colors that you see, because age, of course, can affect colors as it degrades in some cases. And then thirdly will be aromas, how strong the aromas are and what aromas you detect while are coming off at this point. So go ahead and start making your notes on that at the same time. You're going to be ready to pour your water. Now our water was just brought off of the boil, so it's still very close to boiling. And there we are. We've come up just about to the opening, half an inch, quarter of an inch from the bottom of the opening here. So we're going to be able to set that aside. We're going to put our water down and out of the way. No reason to stick your hand against the hot kettle, spilling hot water. So now we're ready to talk about the dry leaf. I hope you're ready to come along with us at this point. A couple of things that we're going to look at, as we said, the aromas first, the shape and color, and then finally we're going to be able to move on. All right, now first, what we're going to notice about this are some of the aromas. Now, some of the things I'm getting already, this is a Nepal First Flush, as we said. This is from Adagio, and the sample size, like this, is available for about $4, or for $4 on Adagio's site. Their recommended instructions talk about 212 degrees, steep time of 5 minutes, and that's labeled on their package here. Some of the things that we're already noticing as far as the aromas is that they bear quite a bit of similarity with Darjeeling aromas. Now, Nepal is nearby, or the Darjeeling is near the border of Nepal, so The information from Adagio's website does say that this tea comes from basically just across the border from Darjeeling, and characteristic smells that you're getting from a Darjeeling and this Nepal are things like a grape smell, a grape aroma. What else? A little bit of a kind of a floral type rose smell as well. So those are probably the two dominant aromas that you're going to get off of this. So second thing we want to look at is, I should also mention a little bit about I did get, if you don't get a kind of rose or a grape, you may be more similar to a raisin. If you get a box of sweetened or the brand name is Sunsweet. That's the one that comes to mind, or Sun Made with me. That kind of sweet smell from the box of raisins. Now, second thing we're going to be looking at, of course, is the colors of our leaves here, and we are getting some kind of what's our words? Kind of a sienna here. We're getting a bit of like a olive drab green as well. We're getting a little bit of a kind of a silvery color, which indicates that we're getting kind of tippy aspect to this. Okay, we're getting a little bit of a light brown, and so we're getting quite a bit of a range of colors. And this is consistent with First Flush Darjeelings as well. You do get this same or very similar range of colors from a First Flush Darjeeling. So this is on par with what we could expect at this point. Okay, now second thing, we've had a chance to look at our dry leaf. We'll be looking at our wet leaf in just a moment. Let me take a look at this. I'm going to let that steep just a little bit longer. So as you're doing so, perhaps you want to take a few moments right now. Get ready to talk about your wet leaf. Your wet leaf, you'll want to note a couple of things. You'll want to note, first off, after you pour, in just a moment, the aromas that you're getting. You may be able to open your cup a little bit and start getting a little bit of aroma right now, so that would give you a slight head start. Other things that you can also look at are the shape of the leaves. How has that changed? Especially once you've steeped your leaves, after they've been curled or wrapped up as they were here. You also notice that, for example, here, the pieces were very short and small, which indicates that these leaves had been chopped, okay, or cut. So after you've steeped your wet leaf, those will often open up, and you're able to look more closely at the little pieces of leaf and admire the colors. They may have changed. They were darker here. What you will likely find is that they are lighter when you've looked at the wet leaf. So aromas, color, and shape changes that are due to the leaves opening up and being steeped. Now, I think that we've got a pretty good indication of steep time, and we should have plenty of flavors and aromas to draw out this point. So, when using our tasting cup, if a tasting cup is new to you, we're going to be pouring quite as quickly as possible so that we can pour out of our opening here in the front. If you are using the bowl, it's quite easy because you can rest the top of the lid here, the little handle, on the far end of the bowl as you turn it over. Our glass is a little bit smaller. Second thing you want to notice also is that if it tends to kind of dribble or sputter out, and it's because you may not be getting enough air flow through. So what I do is I will stick my thumbnail between the cup and the lid just to create a small opening so that it will allow the air to go through. Third, of course, you may want to have a little towel handy in case there are some drips. But I'm going to open up my towel. I'm going to put my cup down, and I'm going to quickly pour so that I avoid as much dripping as possible. There we are. That was a good smooth pour. I'm holding my finger on the lid here, of course, to keep it from falling off. Okay. Now, you're going to be able to now take a few moments and talk about the aromas, the smells of the wet leaf. Okay, and to do that, it's often a good idea to leave the lid on and also be able to kind of get some sniffs, get some quick whiffs. So you just kind of open up for a moment, take a whiff, close back down. Careful though, of course, there's a lot of steam still built up in here, a lot of heat still trapped under there. So take a quick sniff. Kind of hit both nostrils there and then hit both of them at the same time. Now, I would say that compared to the dry leaf, some of the things that I noticed already off the aromas is that I got more of a sweet floral, and again that kind of sweet raisin aspect off of the dry leaf. Now, when I come to my wet leaf, I'm getting how should I say, a more raw kind of, I'm getting a bit of a vegetable tomato vine type smell. I'm still detecting a little bit of that sweetness in the wet leaf, but the tomato vine tends to kind of rise up above that. So you got to be able to catch that tomato vine, kind of not be too overly distracted by it, be able to pick up those subtle notes of the rose, the raisin aspects. Okay. So now the little trick to getting your leaves out, and we'll see how successful we are. Of course, the handy way to do it is to turn it upside down, give it a few shakes. Hopefully, yes, your dry or your wet leaf rather catches on your lid there, and then you've got a nice place to rest and look at your leaves. So I'm glad that worked. It doesn't always work that easily, so a lot of times it tends to just stick to the side and you got to spoon it out. So this was beautiful. All right, so now the other thing that we're noticing when we look at our leaves is look how green these leaves have become. They were so much darker and drier looking in our dry leaf, but now the green hues have really come alive. You still got quite a bit of aroma coming out, and you'll notice as you kind of dig around, you're getting parts of leaves, and you're getting, again, these are lots of different shades of green. You're getting a few tips of very delicate portions as well. Some of these, I'm looking at a very tiny one here. See if this one will unroll. Yes, it's going to unroll ever so delicately. Now that is a fine, delicate leaf right there. Okay. Now, I'm noticing there is some of these leaves do have a bit of redness, kind of rust color around the edges, but for the majority, it's either a kind of a rust. It's either a blend of olive drab with a hint of redness to it, or there are some that are still dominantly green bean color type of green. So that gives us a clue or an indication of the level of oxidization, fermentation that's happened to these leaves. So that's something you may want to note about it as well. Still bright colored green colors off of that. Next thing we're going to be looking at, of course, is our liquid, our liquor. We're going to be talking about a few things. We're going to be talking about the aromas, the color. We're going to be talking about the aftertaste. We're going to be talking about levels of astringency. How astringent is it? We're going to be talking about, it just escaped me. We're going to be talking about the body. We're going to talk, is it a creamy type texture? Is it a watery type texture? Just how strong, how smooth is that body? Okay, so that's something you may want to make a few notes on of your own before you listen to what we have to add here. If you do, you want to take a few minutes and pause. Of course, try not to pause too long because you don't want to let yours cool for too long or have a difference in taste that can happen here. So, if you're ready to move on, if you're ready to resume with us and talk about the liquor, then you may want to kind of step back and talk about what are some of our expectations here as well before we drink. Some of the expectations, as we've kind of indicated already, very close to Darjeeling as far as origin of location. Very similar to Darjeeling's in appearance and apparent processing, I believe. So we're going to expect a lot of kind of Darjeeling qualities. We're going to expect a lighter color. A Darjeeling First Flush has a kind of caramel type color to it. It's not as fully brown, fully red, black color, depending on the term that you use. You're going to find that it does have some kind of floral, rose, grape aspects to it. So that's what we're going to look for here. We predict to find as well. Going to be light on the astringency, the astringency. Yeah, those are the highlights. Now, the question next is that what we actually have here? So if you're ready to continue with us, we're going to talk for a moment about the color. As you kind of hold that up to the light and have a look at that, what you do see is a honey or caramel color, quite bright and clear. Okay. If you want, for example, another aspect you may want to look at that could be helpful to you, I believe it was last week, we looked at a Stash First Flush Darjeeling. And so there may be some ideas or some notes from there to compare with what you see here. If you want to learn a little bit more about this kind of tea. All right. So talked about the color. Let's get a little bit of aroma and flavors here. Now, just from the smell, I'm still detecting that raisin and rose petal. Also, that tomato vine is still present. So let's give it a taste and see if that still comes out. Now, the tomato vine aspect is especially more pronounced, and it tends to ride out through as it kind of experiences or comes in contact with the middle and back of your tongue, back of your mouth as well. Still, at the very front, and what you noticed was as I slurped, I allowed the air to come in. It activates, releases some of those aromatic compounds, and of course, when that does, it does travel up into your nasal passage, and that's what really allows you to detect the aromas as well. So, when you're allowed to kind of slurp and hit the front of the tongue, you still are able to uncover or detect that kind of raisin, that bit of rose that we talked about. So those are present. The body is quite consistent, quite smooth. It didn't get too thin, watery. I mean, it's not a milky texture by any means either. The aftertaste is consistent. It has compared to other black teas, you would say, it's fairly light on the astringency. So it's gentle in that aspect. What else do I want to say? I would say that this one also, the aftertaste does kind of flow through that initial taste of the great tomato vine that you get while the tea is in your mouth, and then it's that aroma subtly dissipates, and you are able to kind of detect again a feel, a texture, a faint taste of the sweet and the floral, the raisin and the rose. So, okay, so to kind of put all this together, I've got to get another drink. Now, yeah, I would still say, to kind of put all this together, the tomato vine was dominant and quite. It didn't really build on the composition. I mean, it didn't really allow the tomato vine to dissipate or blend well with the rose aspect, the rose and the raisin, or the grape aspect. So not a full balanced rounded bouquet. Okay, although that rose raisin did come out towards the back in the aftertaste, still could have balanced and composed these a little bit more strongly. So although the aftertaste was smooth, the body pleasant, the aromas from the dry and the wet leaf were quite nice. We give this one an 89 just because we would like to, like we said, see a more balanced aspect, a more balanced approach in the cup and the aromas in the cup. So this was Adagio's Nepal First Flush. What else do we want to talk about? We want to talk about next week, or next time rather. Next time we're going to be talking about Tiga Schwedner's China Fancy White Peony. Following that, you also want to be able to join us for Grand Tea's Shifeng Dragon Well, Shifeng being Lion Peak. And of course, always add your comments. We've had a lot more comments coming out lately. So it's good to be able to have that dialogue with plenty of other people. Get lots of views and ideas. Okay, this is Jason Walker, Walker Tea Review.